Welcome back, listeners, to Tradie Wife Life. I can't believe another week has rolled around and it's time for another episode. We've had some crackers in the last couple of weeks. Heaps of feedback about Therese's episode, which is always very exciting for me to get your feedback. Thank you for taking the time. And I'm sitting here in my office looking out the window. It is a beautiful sunshiny day. And other than the fact I'm actually really looking forward to speaking to our guest, Jodie, today, I would love to be pottering around my garden. This is my really poor attempt at a segue because it's my favourite thing to do on the weekend is spend time in my garden. I sound very middle-aged and yet I absolutely love it and always have. It does fulfill me in a way that work does not. And it means that I can really relate to some of our landscapers and their wives within our Tradies and business community. And that's how I came to be talking to you today, Jodie. One of our wonderful clients, Renata, introduced you to me. Renata is the head of a landscaping business. She works side by side with her husband and their lovely team. And she said, you've really got to talk to Jodie. Jodie has a really interesting story and a great opportunity for us to talk about, I guess, the perceptions within the industry about some of the things that Jodie does as the head of the Landscaping Association. Jodie Dean, thank you very much for joining me today.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure. Jodie, can you tell us, we've spoken a little bit off air, your career progression is actually really inspiring and very different to many of the guests that we've had on previously. Could you share a little bit with us, please?
Sure. Look, I guess I've taken a long way round to the landscape industry. I have actually had 20 years working in Australian agriculture. So I studied agriculture at university, having had a family that are on a dairy property here in New South Wales, which I loved. And I think I started that not really knowing what I would do, but it's taken me all around the world and all around the country. I've worked for a number of membership community type associations or membership bodies. I've worked in production, cropping and livestock. I spent a few years at the Sydney Royal Easter Show. I've been involved in international grain trade negotiations. I've run an amazing scholarship program, sending our best and brightest young farmers around the world to investigate. And I've done policy work in New South Wales. And after a couple of kids, I've landed very excitedly at the Landscape Association. So bringing my own personal passion for gardening. I also like to get out on the weekends. I think it's very fulfilling to do something tangible once you've been a keyboard warrior all week. There's just something beautiful. And this time of year in particular, I don't know about your garden, but all the flowers are coming up and everything's sprouting new things. So I brought that personal interest and a family building, sort of background and the production agriculture side of things into landscaping.
Absolutely fascinating career that you've had. In fact, I was sitting here listening to you earlier when we were talking about your trajectory and thinking I had no idea that could lead to that or that could lead to that. It's really quite interesting. And I think when you are removed from that, because we all have our own careers, we tend to be quite focused on the areas that we work in without the opportunity to listen to someone like yourself or chat to someone like yourself about what your career has looked like. I don't even think about the trade negotiations that must go on around grain or any of the product that we import or export. You don't think about that and who's responsible for that. So fascinating to be talking to you about some of those things today. I also feel like, as business owners, perhaps we tend to not think about the responsibilities that we have or the opportunity to take responsibility for our entire industry with what we can do. And I think that's some of what we can talk about today around the association. We talk really loudly and proudly here at Tradie Wife Life and within Tradies and Business about how we're trying to change the perception of the community around trades. It tends to be such a negative conversation. There's always a negative narrative when we look at the media. And a big part of what we try to do here is shift up where that conversation is sitting currently. And I feel like that's one of the things that associations are also working together with their members within the industry to start to shift some of those conversations. Jodie, I guess the foundational question here is, there are lots of different associations for different parts of the industries. Why should we as business owners consider being part of an organisation like yours?
Look, I think there's two, it's sort of what's in it for you, what's in it for the industry. I don't know how to put it better than that. landscaping is a boom industry. I think if COVID has done anything, one, there's been a lot of relocation, and we've seen a lot of our members opening up regional or coastal branches of their businesses because people have, had that lifestyle change, the sea change, the tree change. Quite a bit of wealth and money is going to these other areas, and they want to have this beautiful home. But even here in Sydney, I mean, we worked from home we were forced to do so. A lot of us now have the benefit of doing that part-time or full-time. And I think what we expect of our backyards has evolved. I mean, once upon a time, the landscaping was a Hills hoist, and then maybe there was a square pool in the middle of the backyard. And now I think that our backyards are just, and this is a beautiful living extension of our indoor home. And you just see that the connection of, entertaining areas, beautifully landscaped pools. So I think, it's a booming industry. So if you talk about, no one should be talking down landscaping because there's just so much in it. So I think as an association, what we offer is that amazing network. There's, that opportunity to talk to other business owners that have gone before you, share their trials and tribulations. And I think, it's always really, it's easy to sort of look internally and think, I did that wrong, I should have done this. But I think other people have been there as well, and you learn by trial and error. So I think there's the network, very similar to other industry associations. We have business resources around hiring people, retaining people, contracting jobs. We run the amazing Landscape Excellence Awards, so you can promote your very best projects and use your winning accolades and your medals to sort of promote your business. So I think there's all those things in it for you as a business owner and a business operator. But I think there's also that being a part of your industry and playing your part in growing your industry, because when things do go wrong, and for landscaping, the season's dried off again. We're probably looking down the barrel of some sort of water restrictions in the next 12 or 18 months if the weather forecasters are right. So when it comes to those issues, it's your industry association that gets behind you and your needs, and we'll be the ones advocating to the state government and Sydney Water about those issues. So I think it's about, you can get so much out of it, the tangible, the intangible, the networking. But I think it's also about ensuring that when your industry needs to have a voice, that they're resourced and they've got the right people in place, and that they're consulting you about what those needs are.
It's a really important point. There's really big changes as, being part of a construction business. We are seeing massive changes that are going to have huge impact on small businesses around the NCC and what's happening in that space at the moment. And if it wasn't for associations advocating for us, I'm just one little tiny voice that's very hard to hear. And I'm lucky to have a vehicle like the podcast to at least broadcast to more listeners. However, I'm just one little tiny business owner who does not have a loud voice for government to take into consideration when it's making these decisions around around change. And so I need my association to be backing me. I need them to hear my frustrations. I need them to help me understand how it might impact my business, or what the implications might be more broadly within the industry. So I feel like, in fact, that's probably one of the very first places I started within the industry that the association we have. It was contracts, actually. That's where we first started. And then understanding there's so much involved with a contract. So having the opportunity to do education around that contract and contract law and what the implications were for our business. And it grew from there. Then it went to networking, like you rightly point out. Trades are such an insular space where we tend not to do a good job of talking to other business owners around us. And associations like yours will often have events where we can come together and not necessarily be impacted geographically, so I can open up more, or I feel like I can open up more and have some of those conversations, so it doesn't feel quite so lonely. Business is a lonely journey, particularly in the trade space, I feel. So associations really have that support for you. And then the resources around hiring and firing, that law, trying to stay on top of that is impossible. So it's worth the investment, full stop, to have somebody in your corner to be able to ask some of those really important questions of, well, what does this mean for our small landscaping business or our large landscaping business? It doesn't matter. That's where the association can come to the party with assisting you. And then finally, that voice is so important to change the representation of who we are as business owners, rather than that negative narrative. It's a crazy narrative, and I don't understand where it's come from. I think it's just a cheap, easy shot. So in terms of the association then, when we were speaking off air, you mentioned you've got a team of 4. Is that including you?
Yeah, there's a team of 4 of us. We're all part-time. We all work from home,
Wow.
and we cover membership, events, admin, sales, marketing, communications. We have some external support, like a lot of small businesses, for
Yep.
accounting support, and we have a really heavy social media presence. So we have some digital marketing expertise. But yeah, we're small and lean and nimble, which is wonderful. But at the same time, we're small and lean.
How do you manage that with the kind of support that you are offering, Jodie? That sounds like that would be quite complex in terms of, I presume that sometimes members are in what they deem to be trouble, or that they're in an uncomfortable position. They need to be able to talk to somebody to help them find what the appropriate steps might be. How do you deal with that with a small team?
Well, look, amazingly, so much of it is volunteer support. And I think a lot of associations are the same. We have a diverse board of directors who come from our membership, and that evolves over time. There's no set formula, but we do end up with a great mix of residential businesses, larger commercial, construction experience, maintenance experience, design experience. So we do have an amazing board of directors. We're very fortunate that those have served on the board before, always on the end of the phone.
Right.
The association's been going for just shy of 43 years, I think, and some of those foundation directors, who were small residential landscaping businesses at the time, now run some really phenomenally successful and large businesses. And they are there on the end of the phone. We have a lawyer who works a lot in our industry on our board. He volunteers his time, and he's an amazing resource in terms of contracting, or if we just get those curly, tricky questions. I guess through my very multifaceted career, I've had quite a bit of experience with contracting and things like that. So, able to support people. But look, sometimes I think it's just having someone and an objective person to talk through some of the scenarios with. And, we're regularly getting calls from members. There's a lot happening at the moment as economic times are tightening up and
Yeah.
interest rates, and clients are feeling the pinch, and they're wanting to carve up and cut and change contracts and bring in a few of their own subbies to try and save a bit of money here and there. So, it's been a good experience for me to learn some of those issues, but, that's the type of thing that we're trying to support people on. And, I think, like all trades, shortage of staff. We have a jobs board on our website, but I think nearly weekly I'm asked if I can post a specific job, which I'm worried if I do, every single member will ask me to do it for them. But you talk about that sort of industry representation about when things go wrong. There's also the proactive end of that, where we're out promoting careers in landscaping. We put articles, and we did this great article recently, 10 great reasons to be a landscaper. That went into a career advisors and high school teacher magazine, and then it went into Hort Journal. And if you've got young people out there considering a career in a trade, great path in life. We're obviously want to nab the best and brightest to landscaping, as I'm sure every other industry association does. But there's all manner of things that we do, and we have a really dedicated team that have come from associations and come from private industry, and I guess we just pool all those resources and do our very best.
It's incredible to think it's done with such a small team, and it's wonderful to think that you have so much support from your board members, from other industry professionals that are prepared to do that on a volunteer basis. Jodie, how are the decisions made from the top down, I guess? How are they made around what you will do within the association?
Look, I guess I started with TLA just over 12 months ago, and having had a great CEO for 5 years prior to that, our board made the decision to put together a really firm strategic plan. So they really laid out where they wanted to head to. So that's our guiding light for everything that we do. And it's about growing our membership and growing our voice. A lot around brand awareness, why we're important within the trade industry, but why we're also important in a consumer landscape, because our members are qualified, they're licensed. So if you're somebody out there looking for a landscaper, a bit like other trade industry associations, you want someone that, there's that mark of accreditation. And
Yes.
that's still the number one reason that people are joining the association. So it's about getting out there to consumers and saying, if you want a landscaper, pick a TLA member in New South Wales and the ACT, because, they have got all those required credentials. So, we do a lot on social media. We're very fortunate to have built up a following of nearly 90,000 on
Wow.
Instagram. Landscaping just affords itself beautifully to something like Instagram. It's beautiful aspirational backyards and products and landscaping businesses. So that's what they use to market their business and services, and that's what we support them with. So yeah, I guess, we do our again, we do our best.
Yeah, absolutely. It must be hard to, with an organization such as yours, to figure out how to support so many people. You'd have such a varied business type structure, or I could probably even say client avatar. They would be very varied. I presume you've got stuff or clients in the commercial space, you've got members in the residential space, you've got small, medium, and larger businesses. Trying to find how to service all of those must be really challenging.
Well, that's actually been a huge focus of mine in the last 12 months. I think, COVID's a difficult landscape, pardon the pun, for any association, particularly a tactile membership like Tradies, where they like face-to-face
Mm.
interaction. So the strategic plan that the board did and our focus in the last 12 months has been, we've spoken to our members, we've done member surveys, we've reached out and tried to gather that information. And I think we're evolving our offering to make sure that there is something for everybody.
Mhm.
We're actually launching a brand new event in 10 days' time. So on the 6th of September, we're hosting a landscape expo,
Oh,
which is
wow.
like a huge trade day and seminars. I think the association hasn't done something like this for well over 10 years.
Mm.
We're hosting it at Ryde TAFE campus, which is where most of our members probably did their horticulture or parks and gardens or landscape construction or design qualifications. And it's just been, so far, like in the lead up, we've just had so much positive interest in the event. We thought we'd get about 20 exhibitors. We've got 50.
Wow.
There's going to be over 200 apprentices there, their employers, our members, the industry at large. And we're by doing a new event like that, there is something for everybody. We're going
Yeah.
to have products and services from beautiful high-end residential finishes to tools for outdoor maintenance to products and services for the construction sector. We've got some phenomenal speakers on the day, some WorkSafe silica. I'm sure your industry is right across that.
Yep.
There's requirements for our ACT members to have safety training that can't be far off the horizon for other jurisdictions, given
Great.
the national focus on it. So we're trying to evolve our offering to make sure, and we're a state-based whole of New South Wales ACT as well. So we do a lot of small member events, which are great, that intimate networking, but this is drawing people from right across the state. This is a whole day event, and people are saying that is worth traveling to Sydney for a day, because I'm not going to get that information specific to landscaping anywhere else. So that has been a huge focus of ours in terms of not segmenting our membership. There's a lot to learn, because a lot of those big commercial businesses have come from a smaller,
Mm.
a small business startup. So I think those sharing those lessons and having panel discussions and all those sorts of formulas that all of us associations use. But we are really focusing on who is our membership, what are their different needs, and making sure that our offering, services all of them.
Jodie, have you got any indication yet as to how many people you expect to come through the door for that event?
We've got about 500 registered with 10 days to go. So we're really hoping our big awards dinner attracts 600 to 700 people, and that's by far been our biggest annual event. It's a beautiful
Holy moly.
gala dinner, but I'm really hoping to give it a run for its money with this event. And, it's about getting young, or I shouldn't say young people, industry entrants at that
Yeah.
early part of their career and giving them some exposure. Right through to the seasoned landscapers who just want to network and support the event and support the association. So if it's successful as we hope it's going to be, we've got the opportunity to grow it to a bigger venue and all those sorts of things. But the TAFEs, like New South Wales TAFE and the staff there have been amazing in accommodating us. The site's very tactile. They can actually pour water on permeable pavers and explain what those products do.
Yep.
So we're really excited about it. We're in the thick of it, but we're really excited about this new event.
I'm very grateful for your time today in the middle of that. I'm thinking about our conference where we might get 50, 60 members come along to the conference, and there's, what is there, one, two, three, four, five, six of us running the back end of that. So I think it's incredible you can pull together such an event
I
on
think
such a small team.
Having done the Sydney Royal Easter Show back before
Yeah.
COVID restrictions, I think we got 120,000 people one sunny Good Friday. So I think we can accommodate 600 or 700. I'd love to see it get to that big.
That's incredible. And so is the TLA, is it a nationwide organisation or is it just New South Wales?
New South Wales and ACT. So
Right.
there's no landscape. I guess we've come out of the Landscape Contractors Association in different, names over the years, but there's no national body. Each state has its own association or entity. I think it's to do with licensing and
Yeah.
qualifications in each state.
Yeah.
Um, but we do work with some national associations in landscape architecture, landscape design,
Mm.
some of those bodies, and we've really opened the gates to try and work more with those bodies and invite in all of their members, the arborists, parks and leisure, which is a lot of our local government facilities and
Mhm.
community sporting facilities. So we're really trying to make this event something for the whole industry and bring all that expertise and knowledge and products and information to our members and the broader industry.
And so that event that you're talking about, is it something that's likely to attract interstate visitors as well, given that it's so different?
Possibly. I think, we do, there are certainly landscaping businesses that are multi-state now, and our counterparts in Victoria do something very similar. I went and had a sticky beak at that earlier in the year. Would love to see people, coming along from, far and wide. And if not this year, then I've got big hopes for that event in the future.
That's fantastic. So back to the smaller events then, Jodie. What do the smaller events look like? Do you have a regular calendar that you refer to throughout the year and work towards that?
Yeah, we're starting to redevelop that. I think those things sort of fell away a little bit over COVID, but we kick off the year with a Women in Landscaping event on International Women's Day, and it really comes down to the supply businesses that are engaging with us at different points in time. So we do nursery visits, we do behind the scenes at sand, soil, and mulch type facilities. There's obviously a whole range of beautiful stone and pool fencing and lighting fixtures, and so we try and evolve the offering each year, and have some of those sort of smaller showroom type events. But always staple to it is bringing in some of our members that are really well recognised for what they've done, and what they're currently doing, and we get them to share their story. Australians love storytelling, and from my background in agriculture, you could have a cattle farmer from North Queensland talking to an avocado grower from WA, and they would still find something that they can share and learn from one another. So I think bringing in, expertise from our membership, from other associations, and that storytelling around sharing experiences and learning is sort of fundamental to what we do. And we certainly want to evolve that. Nothing too formal. Our guys like to be outside. They're tradies. Apart from getting them in their black ties for the gala dinner, we try and ensure that they're comfortable in their surrounds, because I think that makes,
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of tradies, a lot of landscapers, they're more introverted people. They like working by themselves. They
Yes.
like working for themselves. So I think you just really need to be attuned to that when you're often hard to get them up in front of the room with a
Yes.
microphone.
Yeah.
But we do coax them, and I think those people have got a lot to share.
Yeah, huge benefit for the members to be able to hear from someone who's already walked that path that they might be considering.
Mm,
It's an amazing opportunity to be able to listen into what the story was like, because that's part of what we don't share often is none of these pathways are without bumps or issues along the way. So to be able to have somebody share that and understand that, wow, they're there, and to get to there, they had to go through some of these things, good times and bads. I think that's really
yeah.
important for understanding for business owners. Jodie, what do you see as the future for the Landscaping Association?
We're looking to really grow our membership. That's a really big focus for us. We're actually launching a whole new category of free student memberships at our Landscape Expo on the 6th of September. So another lovely tie-in with TAFE New South Wales. We've got a lot of resources, particularly for apprentices in their final years of study, that can support them in delivering great assignments and all those types of things. So we want to support the new entrants into the industry. We hope in turn that they'll stay connected with us, and if they go and open their own business down the track, that they remember that support that we gave to them. So we've got a huge focus on that. We're trying to, as we said before, really investigate who our membership is and ensure that we've got a diverse information and product and event offering that has something for everybody.
Mhm.
And I think there's a enormous call for us to do more in career attraction. So get into more of those career fairs, talking about why, people should consider a trade in general, but, why consider landscaping? And people come to us through different pathways. To be a member of the association, you need either a structural landscaping or a builder's license. So people have done, building and construction before they come to us. And so there's a piece in that. And then I think that broader brand awareness piece, about consumers choosing a TLA member, to get, quality landscaping works. And the more we can do that, and the more people are asking for us, and the more brand awareness, the more members that we're going to grow. So I think, there's a few key initiatives on the horizon for us.
Absolutely fascinating to hear what's behind the association, and particularly with such a small team, to think that you have such large plans, and to be able to pull off an event like this is amazing. Actually, your awards with 600 to 700 people in the room is mind blowing. Just a real tribute to the association, what has happened and been created in years past, but also to yourself, Jodie. It's no mean feat being a CEO of any organisation, let alone something with such big, lofty goals like the association has. We spoke a little bit before we jumped on air, about, I guess, you have a very young family. It can be very challenging in our careers at times to dedicate ourselves to what we're doing with the complications of a family. And that goes for both parents. This is not necessarily strictly something that women face alone. We have a lot of members ourselves where a big part of their goals and dreams for their business is to create that freedom so that both of the parents can be involved with the school functions, the sports days. It was Book Week last week. Many of
Yeah.
our tradies were able to go to Book Week, very fortunately. So I wonder with yourself, given you've had this amazing diverse career, what does that look like for you with a small family? It must be very challenging at times to be able to balance it all, particularly with big events coming up like they are at the moment. And I know what a big time focus they can be. How does that work for you? How do you find that balance?
Uh, Look, it's challenging at times, to be honest. But look, I do have a great husband. We've got a great partnership. We both have sort of senior level roles, and we both have a little bit of travel here and there. But I think it's just about, look, I'm fortunate to work 4 days a week, and this is the first time in my career I've had that opportunity. It does afford some flexibility. We've actually turned the whole office into a 4 day a week office because
Wow.
we're all part time.
Yep.
And I guess most weeks I try and stick to those 4 days, but when those other personal commitments come up in my life, I guess I can use that extra day. I can use that Friday when I need to. I try not to, because you try and focus on those things. But look, the association, the board have been amazingly supportive since I've been there. I didn't expect interest rates to go up like they did when I
No.
took a 4 day a week role. And I sometimes think, oh gosh, the association at this point doesn't have the ability to support me for that extra day. So, there's some other opportunities for me out there. I'm actually currently looking for some directorships back in my agriculture industry. So try and use some of my executive skill set on the other side of the fence. So I think I'm still looking for career progression opportunities for myself going forward, but with a little bit of flexibility around the requirements for that. I think I just try and be appreciative for what I've got. And look, the team have been working really hard. We all work from home. We don't get to spend a lot of time together, but we're trying to do some meaningful things. There'll be a nice long lunch after our expo. I
Well
think the whole
deserved,
team
I might add.
needs a little bit of a reboot. But
Yeah.
look, I think like everybody, you focus on what you can achieve.
Yes.
And you let some things go. If you've got to go and buy the store-bought birthday cake, you go ahead and do that.
Yes, you do.
If the book week costume is what they wore for Halloween last year, my kids are so little they won't remember anyway.
No.
Uh, and we just try not to fill up our personal time with too many standard commitments. Like the kids are so small, we don't try and do too much of the sporting, etc., and those types of things. I was telling you off air, we've just bought ourselves a camper trailer. I don't work Fridays. My husband gets RDOs. So we're just going to try and have a 3 day weekend
Yeah.
once a month and just reconnect and do those things and get outside and get away from screen time and that type of thing. So look, I think you just balance as best you can, and you try not to beat yourself up when you don't quite meet your own expectations, because I think they're usually the highest. And other people are far more forgiving of you, and when things don't quite go to plan. It's like an event.
Yeah,
You know exactly how it's meant to go. And when something goes wrong, as the event organizer, you're probably the only person there that realized it didn't go quite to plan.
that's
And
so true.
I think that's just life in general.
Yep.
Doesn't mean I don't beat myself up, but I try not to.
Jodie, it has been really fascinating talking to you. I really appreciate you taking the time, particularly as you're coming up to such a big event. I think our listeners will find a lot of really interesting information there. I don't know that we necessarily think about what our associations are doing for the industry as a whole. I don't think that they often think about how we as individuals are not only well supported by associations, but have the opportunity to support them in return so
Mhm.
that we are represented, particularly when it comes to law changing, construction codes changing, etc. That representation is so incredibly important. So I implore you, no matter what area of the industry that you might be in, check out the industry association that is applicable to you in your state. It's a great opportunity for you to give back and to be supported in the process. Jodie, thank you so much for being here today. It's been a real pleasure.
Thanks so much, Nicole. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.